Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 276, or rather 67, your weekly get-together where we talk about recent gaming news. As always, our host, Tim Brandon, joining me today is...
David.
Tonight, David, there's this Marvel XCOM being rumored that we got to talk about. Hermen Hulst gave a rather quasi-lengthy PlayStation blog interview and gave a few details I want to get into. And, of course, E3 is looming in the distance, so this will be that lame-ass prediction show that every 2-bit podcast does.
Hey, never sign us as being more than 2 bits.
No, mediocrity is what I aspire to.
Hell
But,
yeah.
but first, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching us here at Twitch TV/GamePoints or later over at YouTube.com/GamePointsPC, feel free to join in the conversation with other questions, comments, concerns you might have, etc. Just try to keep them germane to the conversation on hand. Additionally, if you can get to this show before E3 happens, which is only a couple days from now, feel free to leave your predictions of what might happen down below, and we will revisit them next week. David.
Yes.
I have been playing that game that released into early access last week, breaking my normal typical rule. Because normally I don't play early access games until they come out.
You stay very far away from early access. That has been your spot.
But one of them struck me as so up my alley, I had to play it, and it is great so far. And it's called The Last Spell. Mm-hmm. I have sunk a lot of time into that game. It is, for being an early access, extremely polished. There are some balancing issues in it, where if you get like the right combination of things, you can just do horrible, horrible shit. And most of the time, it's just hard as nails as well. So it's kind of pies. It's very peaks and valleys. What the extremes? You either have like the winning hand, or you're screwed. From what I've experienced on it. But that game, for being an early access, is exceedingly polished, and I just wanted to go ahead and mention that too. I believe Ishtar Games is the devs that do it. That game is fantastic. So thank you for making it, and I recommend all of you take a look at it if you're looking for something. If you like strategy games in real time, in a base defense games. I know that sounds like a weird genre combination, but this game does it really goddamn well. I'd recommend you guys take a look at that.
Cool. I've actually been playing something that might surprise you.
What is that?
Turned on the Xbox and installed 60 gigabytes of updates for Cyberpunk.
How is it?
One of the very early quests that I had in that game that was unfinishable because the character that I needed to interact with bugged out of the map. I just had an item in my inventory to finish the quest. Like I went to my quest log and I clicked on it and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that person's still bugged. And my thing didn't direct me to where that person's body used to be, somewhere in space. And instead was like, read this journal entry. And I literally went into my journal and I found the entry, and then it finished the quest and gave me the rewards and the experience for it. So I was able to finish like a very old quest, which was honestly exciting and kind of took away a bunch of saltiness I had left over from that game. And it's still fun. I still think it's basically just a Bethesda game. I still refuse to compare it to Grand Theft Auto because it's not an open world action game. It's just a RPG with a skin on it. And I don't know. It's still entertaining.
Friend, as long as you're having a good time with it, right? I'm going to give that game another year to a year and a half before I even touch it again. I did for a second think
I just
about
wanted to see.
again.
I'm probably going to still like let it sit and bake for a while, but I'm just like, I wonder how buggy it is and how polished, and like if they've made any progress. And it seems like at least it's better. So.
Yeah. My not to beat the dead Cyberpunk horse here, but my biggest complaints about that game still wouldn't be fixed by patches. And I was expecting a Skyrim-ish at the bare minimum open world RPG. In reality, it still feels more like a Grand Theft Auto to me than a Skyrim. If I had to pick what that game more mirrors between those two extremes, I lean GTA over. I get so little RPG elements in that game, and no patch is going to fix that for me.
That's fair. I also think that like the way you play that game can kind of shoehorn you. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff wrong with it, but at least the game runs now, so there's that.
It's a step up from what it used to, at least on the Xbox. Still not back on the PlayStation Network stores, by the way. So who knows when that's going to happen, if that ever happens. But Cyberpunk is old news. We're here for new news, talking about old games at this point. And old news, rather, because this is almost a week old, but it happened to come out right after our last show. Let's go ahead and start off with this Hermen Hulst PlayStation blog Q&A that they did about a week or so ago. Now, I will link down below so you can take a look at the whole thing if you want to, but I took some big bits, the important bits and pieces from this, I thought. For those of you who don't know, Hermen Hulst is the head of PlayStation Worldwide Studios. He's essentially the guy that coordinates he used formerly of Gorilla. He kind of coordinates all PlayStation's first-party development teams and gets them all working and playing with each other. And that's kind of his role. And he gave a rather lengthy Q&A over at the PlayStation blog. Important to note, this is PlayStation's official blog, so of course they're going to be non-confrontational and asking him questions. This is propaganda, for lack of a better word, because it's PlayStation interviewing PlayStation.
Yeah, of course.
But there's some interesting tidbits that I think came out of this. I'm going to focus on a few other things. Excuse me. First up, on the idea of upcoming games, Hermen Hulst said the following. PlayStation Studios has more than 25 titles in development, almost half of these a new IP. The other half, they're titles that are set in franchises PlayStation fans already know and love. 25 first-party developed games. Almost half of these are new IP. So you have to assume 12 to 13, 11 or 12 to 12 of them are brand new first-party IPs. We can probably ramble off the other ones that we already know about. So things like Horizon 2, the new God of War, Gran Turismo 7, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But that leaves roughly the other half of stuff we haven't even heard of yet.
Well, that's good. That's what they need to be doing.
So yeah, they are investing in new IP, which is great. But one of those games is not going to be Days Gone 2. Specifically to Bend and what Bend has been up to. If you remember, Days Gone was released on PC very recently, and has had like this resurgence of popularity. Like there's been a lot of appreciation for Days Gone being a good game.
Really?
Now that's coming. Yeah, now that when it hit PC, there was like this weird reemergence of people going, Days Gone's actually a good game. Not a great game, not a world-changing game, but a lot of
this wasn't very big because I never saw anyone mention it.
Fair enough. A lot of people that I saw were likening this to the first Assassin's Creed game, where it wasn't like a blockbuster, but you saw the potential in it. And you had the voice actor come out and say, "Hey, I'm glad you see we're getting all the support for Days Gone." You had one of the heads at Sony, Bend, who left the company after Days Gone launched, kind of shit talk games journalists about what the reviews on Days Gone were and stuff like that. There's all these like weird little flashpoints of conversation around Days Gone. And there was talk for a bit that there might be a Days Gone 2. Well, this nips that in the bud because Hermen Hulst said on Bend Studios is working on a very, very exciting new IP that they're very, very passionate about. They're building on the deep open world systems they developed with Days Gone.
Cool. Sounds great.
Cool, but that does mean no Days Gone 2, which a lot of people that I saw seem to be hoping for, including myself. I'd love to see a Days Gone 2. I thought Days Gone was good, not great, but good.
Yeah, I still don't give a shit about zombies.
You're just kind of done with it. Are you done with like all of it? Do you not care about like Back 4 Blood or Dying Light 2 or
like Dying Light 2 will probably be a fun video game?
Okay,
like this is just entertaining for the sake of entertaining, but zombies as like a mechanic, I'm just super over. I don't give a shit about zombies.
Now, is it specifically zombies or is it specifically like horde type enemies? Like, for example, if it was aliens that, rather than zombies, was a bunch of aliens but played identical, would you be more into it?
Probably not.
Okay.
I think it's more the horde mechanic that you're talking about. That might be it.
All right. I'm just trying to narrow you down to see exactly where the hate comes from. Just curiosity.
Fair. Well, because if it's a smaller scale survival horror type thing, where it's like there's 1 to 2 like spooky things trying to kill you, that I'm still on board with that. It's there's another 50 whatsums that are scary, the first 5 minutes when you're doing it, but later it doesn't matter.
That's why I think Alien Isolation was so good in the first third of that game, because it was just one alien. Spoilers for Alien Isolation. Eventually, it's more than one. And androids as well. But that game's old now. You should have played it by now. I feel no shame in spoiling that game for people. That said, too, that game was still top to down a great game. But it does have that sense of, okay, it's like that. What was your opinion of Outlast?
Outlast?
Yeah.
Outlast was all right.
Where it's like one thing chasing you the entire time?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I was with that. That's fine.
Okay.
I like that.
What's your stance on horror games where you can't fight back and you just have to run?
Over it. I don't play
You're
those.
done with that? Okay.
Yep.
Once again, just things that pop in my head as I try to narrow down exactly what it is that you're enjoying about this.
Right. I'm weird. I don't play that many like horror games in general, so I guess I'm super picky about them.
Fair enough. We got some love for Outlast in chat, looks like. Imperial Dev, thank you very much for that. So, Sony's two biggest franchises right now, arguably Horizon and God of War. We have some information on their dates. Now, we speculated last week that when Horizon wasn't given a date anywhere close, because if they were to date it within the next 3 months, it would have been last week, and they didn't.
Correct.
I think both you and I were speculating there's no way this game doesn't come out until possibly the end of the year, if not later, which for sure means God of War 2 is absolutely not this year.
Yes.
Hermen Hulst, Hulst more or less confirmed that, saying the following. For Horizon, we think we're on track to release this holiday season. But that isn't quite certain yet, and we're working as hard as we can confirm that to you as soon as we can. David, to me, that means this game is going to be March of next year.
Yeah. That means they don't have the manpower unless they crunch like crazy, and that is a bad word to say out loud at the moment, so it's probably going to be...
Well, it's a bad word to say out loud between a very, very small but vocal minority of people.
Yeah.
If the average gamer, to use that to use that catch-all phrase, if you were to mention crunch to them, I'd be willing to let people go, what, you mean like the candy bar? Following up on that, he says, and for God of War, the project started a little bit later, so we've made a decision to push that game out to next year. So I fully expect Horizon to be your March game of 2021 and God of War being your big holiday game of 2022, rather. March game of 2022, holiday of 2022 is how I expect it. It's probably 6 months roughly between those two, if I had to mention and guess.
I'd call it closer 8 to 9 months. I'm still thinking we're going to get that February-March release and then like a November release.
That's kind of what I was shooting for. I don't know if did I not say that clear enough.
I don't know. You said 6 months apart. That's not 6 months apart.
Yeah, February. Okay, so February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. It's later than that.
I was like, I don't know why you're counting months, bro. It's not that complicated.
Dumb as hell. That's why I can't do month math in my head.
Anyway, let's keep going.
Speaking of dumb as hell, this one just ripped the heart right out of me. On cross-gen games, and we've gone on this rant a couple of times before, Hulst said the following. Where it makes sense to develop a title for both PS4 and PS5, for Horizon Forbidden West, the next God of War, Gran Turismo 7, we will continue looking at that. If PS4 owners want to play that game, then they can. David, we have said this multiple times, as Hermen Hulst confirming it. Horizon, God of War. We already knew Horizon, but it sounds like God of War and GT7 now officially confirmed for PlayStation 4, which means they are in no way, shape, or fashion PS5 games. They're PlayStation 4 games that get ported up to a PlayStation 5. Once again, owning a PlayStation 5 pointless for all intents and purposes. If you weren't willing to get a PlayStation 4 Pro, there is no reason for you to get a PlayStation 5 either, unless you really like Ratchet & Clank. Or Returnal, which is a fine game, but not a system seller. It's
the argument we've been having for a while.
I hate this. This is one of those things where it's like Sony has to give people a reason to buy this fucking thing. Yes, I know. They're sold out. Okay, everyone's sold out right now.
That's what I was going to say. So the immediate argument to that, right? And I know we get mad about this all the time, and I'm still on our side, right? I'm not changing sides on this. But when you look at them as a business trying to make money, why the hell wouldn't they push these titles on both when most of their fans do not have access to a PS5 because they are impossible to buy?
But here's the counter to that. More PlayStation 5 sold at this point in time than PlayStation 4 sold. And they were doing PlayStation 4 exclusives at that time. You had things like Killzone Shadowfall. You had things like Infamous Second Son. You actually had big IPs attached to being exclusive only to the next gen.
And So I don't think we have the time to really get into this, but my rebuttal would be, what were the sales like for those initial exclusives?
I don't have that handy. I couldn't tell you.
And is that worth the money when they could just double dip?
I will say it is telling
Because
that
the
we have
PS4
not
has
had.
one of the largest install bases of any video game system.
I will say it's telling that we have not had another Killzone or an Infamous since then.
That's kind of where I was leaning with that line of questioning. I'm not gonna lie.
So that's something to consider.
Both of those
for
studios work on different franchises now.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It's a bummer, but it's also good because that means I actually have a chance to play these games. Because no, I don't own a PS5, and I've had no opportunity to get one. So cool.
Well, they're about.
Actually,
Go
give
ahead.
it a shot.
It sounds like Sony is also considering doing the Microsoft thing, making it to where you don't even have to buy anything at all once these start becoming exclusive, which, once again, don't get me wrong, I'm fine with. I actually prefer this. It sounds like they might be bringing more games to PC as well. Once again, back to Hermen Hulst. We're still early on in our planning for PC, and Horizon Zero Dawn has been very successful. I think it shows that there's an appetite from gamers outside the PlayStation ecosystem to experience the amazing portfolio of games that PlayStation fans have enjoyed for years. But I want to emphasize that PlayStation remains the best place to play our PlayStation Studios titles at launch. But we do value PC gamers, and we will continue to look at the right times to launch each game. David, to me, this screams that every single PlayStation exclusive that has a budget worth it will be brought over to PC.
Yeah, why not? If it's a big AAA game and they think it'll make the money, and they put like a 2-year timer on it, why not? I know a bunch of people got mad about Horizon Zero Dawn, but honestly, fuck those people, because you can't play Horizon Zero Dawn in like 1440p or 4K on a PS4, so suck
Agreed. And let me clarify here. My stance on I don't care if games go to other platforms is not the same as our stance that they need to be making current gen games, not last gen games. Because when you port something over to the PC, you're not necessarily limited by your hardware. If you want the giant lump of plastic that is the PlayStation 5 to truly show off what it can do, it needs to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5. Because if you build it for last-gen consoles, you must, by definition, hold back. Which is why we keep hearing reviews for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart just dropped today. Almost universally, they all have one thing in common. The game looks fucking amazing. And you're not going to be able to replicate that on a game that has to tie itself to, at this point, 6 or 7-year-old hardware.
Yeah.
You can't. I'm not saying it won't look good. I want to say it will look great. But you
there's
are
always the
limiting
PC
what you can
argument, right? Because if a game launches on PC, then technically it can play on a million different PCs. It can go anywhere from looking amazing on high-spec machines to looking like absolute garbage on potatoes. But that's not necessarily the same thing. Because if you own a console, you're expecting a baseline level of performance for that system.
Yes.
If you have a kind of crap computer, then you more or less expect what you get.
Correct. Whereas on a PC, I can turn things off. I can fiddle stuff around. I can manipulate the settings.
Yeah,
on a
you
good
get to
PC
change
game.
Each settings the way you want to. So that if you want to chase 60 FPS, you can. If you want to play your emphasis on high resolutions, you can. But on consoles, you don't really get to do anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
more than just the off and on switch.
Change quality and performance modes sometimes, but that's about it.
Yeah. PC lets you actually have more customization when it comes to that. So yeah, if you're interested in reading the entirety of that Q&A of Hermen Hulst, we kind of went over the big points there. You'll be able to find the link provided down below in the description if you want to take a look at it over on the Discord, where I post all the links to the stories we talk about. David?
Yes?
Why don't you go ahead and lead us off on this next topic here? And I want to thank Wilson from Wilson's Corner / Captain Ice Cold, who pops up a chapter now and then, for providing us with this link. So thank you very much.
All right, and this story is from Video Games Chronicle. 2K is reportedly set to announce a Marvel XCOM and a Borderlands spin-off. This is according to an alleged leaked game list that was first posted on Reddit and then verified by Bloomberg journalist Jason Schreier, who we've referenced 800 million times on this show. Some details of which VGC's own sources can corroborate. According to the list, the Borderlands spinoff is called Wonderlands and stars mainstay character Tiny Tina. A series spinoff was first claimed to be in development by Game Reactor last month. Then 2K parent Take-Two confirmed shortly after that it would publish a new Gearbox franchise before April 2022.
Okay,
It's
so
also
pause right here
yes.
before we get on to the second part. This is 100% happening at this point. I'm willing to say that. I mean, other than Schreier and everyone else confirming it as well. But this was under the codename Daffodil. For the longest time, I've heard grumblings of something called codename Daffodil that's supposed to be a Borderlands spinoff. I didn't know what the exact details of it were going to be, but I do know that Gearbox internally, at least as of the past few games they did, were codenaming all their stuff after plants. So, for example, there was a big Gearbox game that came out recently called Project Oak that was eventually turned into Borderlands 3. So this is just what they do. So when the rumor of something called Project Daffodil started going around, I was like, okay, that matches with what I know how they internally handle things. So this all adds up.
Makes sense. That being said, are you excited for a Borderlands spinoff?
Not really. I think I'm over Borderlands. I gave Borderlands 3 a shot, and
I stopped. I didn't even play the third one because I played 1, 2 in the pre-sequel, and I was like, all right, I think I got it.
yeah, Borderlands went back to the Reddit joke meme factory just one too many times. And I was hoping for something as great as Handsome Jack was in a villain. And honestly, the two twin villains, the brother and sister of Borderlands 3, didn't do it for me. Because did you play Borderlands 3 at all?
No.
Okay, so the two villains on there are essentially YouTube stars, where they do like the whole like, comment, and subscribe to our murder channel and stuff like that. That's like a running gag throughout the thing. The problem is, we're at the point where YouTubers are actually filming dead bodies and making fun of them hanging in the woods. So you can't parody that anymore. It's already at maximum parody abyss. Anything that you do to parody it will be done naturally by a YouTuber 5 years from now. So it is beyond parody at this point. So it just felt
it's the Simpsons problem.
Yeah, everything that they did in Borderlands, I kind of went like, okay, I get where you're going with this, but I feel like this has already been done somewhere other than like, torturing people and ripping off their faces and stuff like that.
Yeah, anyway, if you are excited for Borderlands spinoff with Tiny Tina, then you get to look forward to April 2022.
It doesn't help that I also think Tiny Tina is annoying as fuck. I do not like her as a character. She has an awesome backstory, and they explain why she got so cracked in the second one if you go real deep into like the audio files. And that I thought was really cool. I'm like, okay, nice. But she is much like how Aqua Teen Hunger Force was from Adult Swim. Perfect in extremely small doses. Anything longer than 10 or 15 minutes and I'm out. I'm done.
All right. That's fun. In other 2K news, it was also claimed in this that XCOM Studio Firaxis is working on a new turn-based strategy game starring Marvel heroes. Because you know that Marvel properties do super well as video games. Last month, Take-Two said the studio would reveal several exciting projects this year. Finally, the alleged claims that 2K will publish a new action game described as Cthulhu meets Saints Row. It's speculated that this could be Hangar 13's new IP, described as an open-world sci-fi title with supernatural elements. Of all the things talked about, that sounds the most interesting to me.
Hangar 13
I do love me some XCOM. I don't need Marvel XCOM.
Okay, let me address the XCOM thing second. The Cthulhu meets Saints Row thing, the Hangar 13 makes great open-world games. Let me rephrase that. The last game that I can think of Hangar 13 did was Mafia 3, which by far is one of the best stories I have seen in an open world video game along the lines of Saints Row, GTA, etc. But that map and all the side shit in that game can just jump off a pier. You could easily delete half of that map that was in Mafia 3 and lose nothing. And if they would have made Mafia 3 more of like a Max Payne experience where it's just kind of
a bit more streamlined,
you could have had an amazing game there.
A little less things to discover.
Yeah, a little bit less bloat. A lot less bloat. Let's be real here. Hangar 13, though, I think has great talent behind it, and I'm really looking forward to whatever this Cthulhu meets Saints Row game is, because I've heard some scuttlebutt on this, and it sounds amazing.
Yeah, sounds cool for sure.
As far as the XCOM thing goes, all right. I love XCOM. I have been hoping for an XCOM 3 announcement for going on a few years at this point. We got XCOM Chimera Squad, which was fine. But when
a small appetizer.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was 100% thinking, okay, we are assured to get XCOM 3 announcement sometime that year. It's got to be coming. You don't release a tiny little thing like that in such a beloved franchise and not follow that up with something. And then just nothing.
Yeah, well.
But I'm not
because they're working on a Marvel game instead.
That's why I said I was about to say I'm not concerned about this Marvel game, however, taken away from resource throw, because from what I understand, once again, this is just things that I hear. I could be right, I could be wrong. Who the hell knows? The team working on this Marvel XCOM game, it's not really an XCOM game. It's just going to be a Marvel game that plays like XCOM. Is not Jake Solomon's team. Jake Solomon being the lead dev behind XCOM at the moment. So that means Firaxis is like currently in 2 teams right now. Half of them working on this, the other half working on something that we have not officially heard yet, that Jake Solomon's heading up. And given what he does, it has to be XCOM 3, David. Yeah. I refuse.
Oh, what if the whole team was working on XCOM 3 and we didn't have to worry about this other game taking away resources?
I'm actually kind of fine with the idea of a Marvel strategy game. I think it could be done well.
It can't be worse than Avengers. It's impossible.
Absolutely not. Fuck. I like that 2 action point strategy game system, though, that we find in, like, Mario vs. Rabbids, or whatever the hell that game was. Mm-hmm. Or XCOM, to go back to. I like that game system. I'm willing to play anything that comes out. I'm willing to at least take a look at anything that comes out with that. And I think a big budget Marvel game using that kind of system could be amazing.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, because this has even less news. So we don't have dates. We don't have anything. So
coming up next, a little bit of a downer. This is from My Nintendo News. Yuji Naka is no longer working at Square Enix. Now, you might be asking who the hell Yuji Naka is. Well, he was once the head of Sonic Team. He's one of the creators behind Nights into Dreams, which is an amazing platformer that was only on the Dreamcast. No one played it. He made Sonic the Hedgehog, or helped create Sonic the Hedgehog. And he also made Balan Wonderworld, the game that recently just came out and was savaged, ripped apart by critics and consumers alike. That game...
did you watch 3 minutes of that video game? Because it was trash.
That game bombed horribly, and it seems like Naka's kind of fallen on the sword on this one by going, hey, I'm leaving, I'm out, and furthermore... He alludes to the fact that he might be retiring completely from games because he's now 55. And that, I wish the man the best of luck if in his retirement, if that turns out to be what the case was. But I just don't like seeing someone who, he's a big name. He made Nights into Dreams. He helped create Sonic the goddamn Hedgehog, one of the most recognizable characters across the world. I would hate to think of him retiring with Balan goddamn Wonderworld being his final game.
Yeah, that does suck.
Unfortunate. David?
All right. More news. This one from GameIndustry.biz. Ken and Roberta Williams are making their first game together in over 20 years.
Now, do you know who these two are?
Who that is.
Okay.
Those would be the Sierra Online founders, Ken and Roberta Williams, and they announced that they will be releasing a new game this year. Their new title, The Secret, is said to be Sierra flavored and will be the first new game in over 20 years. I feel like I've said that 4 times. The Secret will also be a collaboration between the Williams and 3D artist Marcus Maximus Mera.
It's a good name.
We're going to go all the way back in time to 1979 when the Williams founded Sierra Online and built the company into a prolific producer of adventure games. So these are the old games: Space Quest, Police Quest, King's Quest, a lot of questing games.
Did you ever play any of these?
We've talked about this at length. I did not play Sierra adventure games because I am not as old as you are.
That's right. You were a zygote when the shit came out. For those of you who don't know, these were those old text-based games where it's like, okay, you enter a room and it's dark, so you'd have to type in turn on switch, and then you have light, and it'll be like what direction you want to go, in north, east, or west. And so you type go north, and then you go north and you find yourself in another room. That same idea of game there. These two are extremely influential in game development. Most everyone has not even heard of who they are. But it is...
Well, I know the Sierra games are a big deal, though, because they're often, like, just lauded by critics and people that have been in the industry forever as, like, major influences and, like, a huge deal, and
so much would not exist without these two. So it is glad to see them kind of dusting off the saddle and hopping back on to make something new. Now,
yeah. At this point, how old are they though? Because they retired in the late 90s.
Yeah, they retired in the late 90s, but they were, I think, like early 30s at the time.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe early 40s at the time. I could be making them way younger than they are.
I was just like, are there like a couple of 80-year-olds about to make a video game?
No. I get the feeling. I think they're both in
cool.
their mid 60s at this point. Okay, goddamn it, I gotta look this up.
Yeah, dude, find out how old the Williamses are, because
I'm gonna fucking find out right here. He is 66 right now. Ken Williams is. Roberta is 68. So yeah, they are actually pushing their 70s.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool though.
But they would have retired when they turned 40. Which, hey, I mean, they sold Sierra and just went, we got our money and pieced out.
Yeah, I want to retire at 40. That'd be rad.
So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what these two make, to see if they have adapted their style for modern day or not. Hey there, Morathon. Good to have you in chat, by the way. I think they also mentioned somewhere else on another article that they're going to be working with Unity, which makes sense because Unity is so easy for, especially if you have like development chops already to make almost anything. Yeah. I don't want to say almost anything with, but you could very easily make a game that they would make with Unity. So yeah, good to hear that they're coming back. Dave, we got a couple more stories I want to get into. One of them, I'm not going to get into any details on anything like that. I just want to mention, be aware that this is out. This is from Persona Central. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is releasing November 11th this year, and story and gameplay details have leaked. So if you're a Mega 10 fan, be aware that plot details to this game are openly out in the wild. So up until now, in November 11th, I'd recommend muting certain keywords and phrases related to this franchise if you don't want to get spoiled. Also, on a completely different track, Games Workshop is doing a big celebration right now with a bunch of news and events and everything going on. And part of that is they gave some details on a couple of Warhammer-themed games. Now, as everyone who watches the show knows, I am a big Warhammer fan. I love playing the game. I love a couple of the books. I really enjoy painting the models and all that stuff. Their games, however, kind of hit and miss.
Hit and miss.
Some great ones.
Because they missed out on a huge opportunity once upon a time when a little company named Blizzard asked them if they could make games using their licenses, and they said no. And then they went off and made Warcraft and StarCraft and made all the money. And Games Workshop said, wait, there's money in video games? Yeah. Shit. And proceeded to throw their license at literally anyone that would take it.
I need to actually double check to see if that's real, because I keep hearing more and more people say that's just an urban legend, but I need to confirm if that's legit or not. I think it is legit, but I'll double check.
I don't care because it's fun. And to me, it makes the most sense. That the reason there's a million Warhammer games now is because of hubris.
I mean, that's absolutely true. We had some announcements that came from this current event that's happening with Games Workshop that I want to bring up here. One of them, Warhammer 40k Shootas, Blood and Teeth, which looks fun. This thing looks like a 2000 Flash game, like think Alien Hominid or Metal Slug, where you play a bunch of orcs blasting people, and it has a very cartoony art style. Like I said, if you're thinking Alien Hominid, you're on the right page for this. And it's made by what was that?
I hate the way this game looks.
Fair enough. You don't have to love it.
I can't stand it because it's like the super cartoony but with like graphic violence thing.
I can actually see orcs looking through the world in that lens, though. I can see them doing that, so it fits. It's from the developers of Guns, Gore, and Cannoli, by the way, so if you've played that game, you get a good idea of what this is about. Also up, this time I'm really excited for, they announced, they didn't show any teaser trailer, they only showed a teaser trailer, either no gameplay or anything like that. They announced Chaos Gate Demon Hunters. Now, David, if you don't know what Chaos Gate was back in 1998, and it was essentially Games Workshop's take on XCOM, where you controlled a squad of Ultramarines and you moved around very similar to how the old XCOM, not new XCOM. I mean,
like a tactical RPG, you mean?
Yeah, I mean like old school Julian Gallup 1998, 1997 XCOM called UFO in England. That kind of game. And this, if it follows that style, I am all in on this because Chaos Gate was awesome.
Cool.
And then finally, the last bit of 40K news that I want to mention. This is a little bit more.
Let's get to the good one.
This is a little bit more up your alley. 40K Dark Tide is going to be getting writer support from Dan Abnett.
Hell to the yes.
Arguably the most recognized and lauded of the 40K Black Library authors. He is a decent science fiction writer in his own right outside of it. And god damn, does this game look amazing. We saw some good gameplay of it.
We saw more gameplay. We've seen a little bit. This is the 40K version of Vermintide.
Made by the same guys, Fat Shark. Love the logo, by the way.
Yes.
Remember how we were saying that
it's only about humans, right?
Yeah, so no Space Marines, no... you might have like a minor psyker in there who has like a power, but even that, I doubt that. But from my understanding, it's supposed to be just a bunch of you, Timmy, you get a gun, go fight chaos.
Yep.
And I am really looking forward to this. This looks amazing.
Also, one thing I don't think you caught during that whole writer reveal trailer, at the end of it, that said Game Pass, my friend.
Did it say Game Pass? I did not see that.
And if there was ever a time for me to convince you to take the plunge,
I'd rather spend $100 a year, whatever it's at, than $60 on this when it comes day one.
Right?
Because that means $40 another game, and then the rest of my games are paid for at that point. I will be picking this up day one. You and I need to think about maybe doing some kind of like GamePoints community playthrough of this if we can get some people willing to do it.
Well, I'll be playing it because it's on Game Pass, and I don't buy video games anymore.
Fair enough. But yeah, I am really looking forward to Dark Tide. As we started off with this conversation, Games Workshop has some really bad Warhammer games and some really, really good ones. And at that top tier level of Warhammer game is Vermintide. So I'm really excited for them to put it in the setting that I appreciate more. And god damn, it looks real good. And Dan Abnett being the writer behind it means it's going to have a lot of the lore fleshed out, and they might even try to make it like I'm always loath to say canon when it comes to 40K because they change the canon at a drop of a hat nonstop. They constantly retcon themselves. But still, it gives it the gravitas that I appreciate. David, we have one delay I want to mention before we go into our E3 predictions, and that is that the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake has been delayed yet again. This game has been pushed back by Ubisoft multiple times, and now, according to a tweet they recently sent, seems to be set for sometime next year. We don't know when.
They didn't even have a date for this year, right?
Well, they gave a date of later in 2021, but before that was supposed to be March, and before that was supposed to be January.
I like how they had dates, and they're getting looser and looser with it.
I would rather... Yeah,
it was January, and then it was March, and then it was maybe by the end of the year. Now it's
sometime next year. Sometime next year, yeah. So if you're looking forward to that Prince of Persia remake, you are going to have to wait a little bit longer. David.
Man, this would be the time where I used to say, man, I wish they just did the CD Projekt Red thing and just said it'll be done when it's done. But
yeah, we saw where that went.
That doesn't work anymore.
E3 is nigh, which means we have to do that thing every show of this ilk does and give our predictions for what we're going to see as E3.
But luckily, we are woefully unqualified for it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't expect to get any of these right, but I would love to get some of these right because these are more hopes than anything else, even though I have some real bad ones on there.
Yeah.
David, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? And by the way, once again, if you catch the show before E3 goes live, feel free to give us your predictions down below or here in chat. Imperial Dev, Morathon, Wilson, if you're floating around and everyone else happens to be lurking, feel free to let us know what you think is going to be announced at this E3. David, start us off.
All right, so I usually like to look through the announcements and like when everybody's going and just, you know, look at developers. So my first one's going to be just for Ubisoft, right?
All right.
And I think now is the time that they should finally show us literally anything from Beyond Good and Evil 2.
David, my first prediction, there will be nothing from the following Ubisoft games: Splinter Cell, Skull and Bones, Beyond Good and Evil 2. They will mention nothing about them.
So you know what's fun is I had a secondary part of my Ubisoft prediction that said specifically there will be no Splinter Cell news this year.
So worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, you're 25% right. Best case scenario, we are collectively 75% right. Ubisoft's a little bit of a joke when it comes to those three franchises. They know... So, let me clarify my Splinter Cell prediction slightly. When I say nothing from Splinter Cell, I mean Splinter Cell getting its own standalone game, because there is grumbling of this Tom Clancy PvP-like game coming out that's supposed to combine Splinter Cell with Division, Ghost Recon, and all of their Tom Clancy games together.
No. Sam being in a different game, it does not count. That is not. That is never what we're talking about. I don't care if he shows up in Fortnite. That's irrelevant.
Yes, you will get nothing. And I don't even mean like a teaser or a, hey, this is what we're working on. I mean, Ubisoft will mention nothing.
You're going to see the same thing you see every time. You're going to see Assassin's Creed stuff. You're going to see Far Cry stuff. And then their show is going to be over.
Yeah, you'll get some stuff on Rainbow Six. Well, what was Rainbow Six Quarantine? It's called something else now because...
Extraction?
It could be, but turns out calling yourself Quarantine with the events that happened last year is probably not a good thing for the game. Still feel bad for Corona Beer. But, yeah. Didn't even get a chuckle out of that. Just deadpan face from you there.
Because that joke is at this point so fucking old. Like, I don't... No, no.
That's fair. Appreciate it.
All right, what do you got?
So, yeah, that is my first prediction. You will get nothing from those games. So, David, why don't you go ahead and lead us off into your second?
Okay, so, to be fair, I wrote this down before we went through all the notes and before I read everything from the week, because I definitely put that there was going to be another Borderlands shown off. But you know what? Screw it. Maybe we're going to talk about a fourth one. Who cares? I just know that they're going to talk about Borderlands.
So let's massage this a little bit. That's
been more or less confirmed. So
no. I'm not just going to give you a free point on that. We'll massage this a little bit. Let's say they'll talk about another Borderlands game that isn't the Tiny Tina spinoff.
I'll take it. I will absolutely amend mine.
All right. My next prediction, we'll go ahead and keep on the topic of what I just said earlier about Ubisoft, but we'll go to a different company. They're not going to mention Eldren Ring at all. No one will. There will be absolutely no Eldren Ring news.
Perfect. I have no predictions related to that because my New Year's prediction already has that covered.
Oh, does it? I don't.
Yeah, you don't remember my beginning of the year prediction?
No.
I had a twofer. For anyone that missed our early January show, I predicted that Eldren Ring would either be canceled or would not release before George R. R. Martin's death.
Okay, so that aligns with mine, but is not necessarily what mine is. I still think Eldren Ring is going to come out. I just don't think you're going to hear about it at all. You won't even hear anyone mention it. You won't get a teaser for it. You will get nothing for Eldren Ring, and you will enjoy it. What you got next, David?
Okay, so this is kind of funny, but I'm going to talk about Xbox, and I'm going to talk about the fact that I think that their show is going to be 70% Game Pass related.
Okay.
I think that it might not be that high, but I'm going to tilt it towards the majority. So over 50% of what they show off is going to be showcasing Game Pass in some way.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that every single thing they show will end with, and it will be Game Pass day one or something like that.
Yes. That being said, I figured that wasn't going to be quite enough for you, so I did the bold thing that you love to do, and I said that Halo Infinite will be dated November 11th.
Dated November 11th. Is that a Tuesday?
That is a Thursday.
Thursday. Very bold. I will give you anything that falls that week.
Oh.
From the 9th to the 12th. If it falls then, I'll give it to you. While on the topic of Game Pass, this is where I go out on a little bit of a limb here and have a little bit of wish fulfillment. Battlefield 6, Madden 2022, and a Dead Space Remastered Collection will be launched on release date on Game Pass.
Oh.
So that's 2 games we know that's coming, and then a third one that I hope is announced.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good time for that,
I
right?
think EA and
They could
Xbox,
even leave the third one out for all I care.
EA and Microsoft have something going on. I can't quite figure out what it is yet. But I would not be surprised if they are going to be teaming up with Microsoft to put all their future EA titles on Game Pass day and date of launch. And those 3 games, once again,
And
Battlefield
they probably
6.
have a sweet deal in place.
Yeah. Battlefield 6, Madden 22, and Dead Space Remastered. And Dead Space Remastered has not been announced or even hinted at yet. So that's my wild one there.
All right, well, I've got a little bit of a wild one that I'll go into. I'm jumping down to Capcom, and I'm going to go ahead and say right now, fuck Resident Evil 4. We are going to hear
had
about
this
a
on my
Code
list.
Veronica remake.
Oh, that's not what I had on my list. What I had on my list originally, I took it off, was Dino Crisis.
Nope, I'm going Code Veronica.
Okay.
I'm going the best traditional Resident Evil game is deserving of a remake remaster, and I want to see the damn thing.
It does need it. It absolutely needs it. David, my next prediction, no Metroid Prime 4 at all. Not even a teaser. Nothing. Just nothing announced.
This goes perfectly with what would be my final prediction, and that is that Nintendo has to show something big this year because there's nothing in the pipeline. However, it will not be Metroid Prime 4. I 100% agree with you because it's going to be F-Zero.
Nope, that runs counter to my prediction at the beginning of the year. Absolutely no F-Zero talk at all for all this year. And I fully admit that's a spite prediction.
Hey, if I predict it every year, one year I will be right.
That's my Dead Space theory. There hasn't been a single year that's gone by that I haven't predicted something with Dead Space in it.
Oh, man.
I've got 2 left. You said that was your last one?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, I got 2 left. One of them was keep on the Nintendo train. Nintendo finally announces they're bringing Nintendo 64 games to its online service. Whatever that Nintendo Online thing is. That's going to be a Nintendo Direct.
It's a good prediction, but I don't actually see that happening because they don't give a shit about their old libraries.
And then finally, something that kind of kicks us both in the balls. Square Enix were teased something that they were doing with Final Fantasy VI. But it will be fucking lame.
Oh.
And what I mean by that is we won't get the Dream Octopath reimagining. What we'll get is something like, you can now play the original Final Fantasy VI and not the crappy mobile version of it, and you'll get like the original SNES ROM or something of it, or you'll get like here is like a spin-off of the Final Fantasy VI characters, and it's going to be like Dirge of Cerberus or something like that. They're going to do something with Final Fantasy VI.
They're going to do something with it, but not
and
a good
we're going to hate it.
That's your prediction?
Yes, I predict that they'll do something with Final Fantasy VI, and we'll both fucking hate it.
They're going to add Kefka as a playable character in Final Fantasy 14.
Or they'll bring, or they'll have Air Guys too, but it'll be Final Fantasy 6 related instead of Final Fantasy 7 themed.
I'd actually still be excited about that.
It's gonna be something. They're going to announce something related to Final Fantasy 6, and we're both going to be very disappointed by it.
All right, cool.
That's what that is.
That's as good as the Dota card game.
Let's see. Chat's mentioning game companies fucking over players. This can't be. Oh no, it is absolutely going to be. So yes, that is our E3 predictions for this year. They're kind of silly, nothing too hard coded or anything like that. I could have gone for a bunch of gimme ones, but I didn't want to. I just wanted to like break hearts at this one. It's feeling particularly salty. David, E3 is around the corner, and they're doing it just like it's a fucking blunderbuss of events at this point. There's stuff all over everywhere. So I want to talk about some upcoming events that we have. One, on June 9th, and I'm only going to go over the big ones. So if you're looking for something smaller or specific that you want to, by all means, track that down. This is not a comprehensive list of everything that's going to be shown over the next week or so. First up, we have June 9th, Battlefield 6 reveal at 7 a.m. On June 10th, we have the Summer Game Fest kickoff live at 11 a.m. That is the Jeff Keighley sponsored one when you get to hear the world premiere over and over and over again. I will be co-streaming that, by the way. The afternoon show on Thursday will be devoted to watching that. On June 11th, you have Coke Prime at noon. That is the Saints Row guys, but they won't be announcing anything Saints Row related. You also have the IGN Expo at 1 p.m. June 12th, you have Guerrilla Collective Day 2 at 8 a.m. That's going to be a bunch of indies. Same with the
The last one
Wholesome.
was good.
Yeah. Same with Wholesome Direct at 10 a.m. Ubisoft Forward at 12 p.m. Devolver Digital Forwarder at 1:30 p.m. Gearbox Showcase at 2 p.m. and Upload VR's VR stream at 3 p.m. On June 13th, you have the Xbox Bethesda one at 10 a.m. That's the one I'm most looking forward to, by the way. Square Enix at 12:15. WB Games at 2 p.m. I fully expect NetherRealms to announce what they've been working on at that one. PC Gaming Show at 2:30. The Future Games Show at 4 p.m. On June 14th, you have Limited Run Games at 1 p.m. Worth taking a look at to see the cool stuff that they're doing. Limited Run Games is an awesome company. Capcom at 2:30 p.m., where David can be disappointed by not getting Code Veronica.
True.
June 15th, Nintendo Direct at 9 a.m. It's going to be a 40-minute Direct. Expect 20 of it to be devoted to Breath of the Wild 2. That's just a guess.
9 of it to be devoted exclusively to Super Smash Brothers.
Yes. Yeah. No. Maybe Smash.
Season 5 or 8 or whatever they're on.
Bandai Namco at 2:25 p.m. And then on June 6th, the Steam Game Festival kicks off at 10 a.m.
Has there been a Steam Game Festival before? I'm unfamiliar with that. Is that
So
just
the Steam
same
Game Festival
as the PC show?
No, this is a little bit different.
Because this is separate from E3 technically, right?
Yeah, I'm tacking it on here because I did something with it on stream last time they did it, which is back in October. What this is going to be is Steam getting a bunch of developers and demos just launched on Steam for like a week or two. And you'll have like the devs being interviewed on Steam, and they'll be talking about stuff. And for about 2 days, I streamed a bunch of demos for anywhere between 15 minutes to an hour or so each. And that was a really, really fun time to take a look at what all this new stuff was coming out with. So something to consider. Also, a little bit later, not E3 related, but just as important, I love this show. Summer Games Done Quick schedule is out. The show will be running from July 4th to July 10th, and they have their speed runners, who's running what, and what time it's going to be, and projected times on there. I didn't see any big marathon ones like we had in the past years, other than a couple of Pokemon ones, which I'm not too into. So unfortunately, I don't have like a Final Fantasy VI 8-hour-long one or anything like that. But there is some good stuff in there. I recommend.
I'm actually fine with that because those are the ones that bore me the most. I can't sit there and watch somebody play an RPG.
Oh, that's something I just have on in the background while I'm doing other stuff. I love having it just playing in the background. And I occasionally look and go, okay, that's cool. David?
That's fair. Yes, sir.
That is a lot of dates that aren't anytime soon. And by anytime soon, I mean tonight. I need something to play.
I was like, that list starts tomorrow, man.
But I need something to play tonight, David.
Oh, okay.
I am terminally bored once 9 p.m. hits.
That makes sense, yeah.
And I need to constantly consume entertainment because I am that asshole. What can I look forward to playing this week? What can I spend my money on and empower my corporate overlords to reign above me with?
Sounds like you need some new releases.
Yes.
All right, well, I got some. First up, Backbone hits PC this week. This is a 2.5D detective RPG, a post-noir role-playing adventure. Become a raccoon private eye named Howard Lotor as you interrogate a diverse cast of characters, collect evidence, and explore a dystopian Vancouver inhabited by animals. So this is very much that like side-scrolling adventure game in 2D that we've seen kind of a lot of recently. I feel like this has become its own little genre, but a lot of them can be pretty cool because they're very story-driven. So if you're into, noir detective games, take a look. Chivalry 2 releases this week for the PlayStations, the Xbox, and PC. Please keep in mind that this is a Epic exclusive for 1 year. The sequel to Chivalry Medieval Warfare, the multiplayer first-person slasher game inspired by epic medieval movie battles. I don't know if you ever played Chivalry, but it is a riot. Loved that game when it came out. Tons of fun. You run around and you try and murder other people in a giant medieval battle.
Isn't it like 64 players or something like that?
There's a ton of people. Arms and legs are getting lopped off. You die a lot. It's super chaotic. I thought that first game was super fun. So Chivalry 2 coming out this week. Very exciting. Edge of Eternity hits PC this week. This is a turn-based JRPG that is very anime-styled, in my opinion, Wage epic turn-based battles as you follow Darion and Celine on their quest to find a cure to the all-consuming corrosion in this grand tale of hope and sacrifice.
I haven't heard good things about this. I might have to pick this up.
It actually looks kind of cool because it's got turn-based, like traditional turn-based battles, but it looks like it has a grid set up at the beginning of fights, and that you actually have your characters staggered in the kind of frontline backline sense of like a Suikoden game. Which, I mean, to me, that's the first thing I thought.
I just keep being told by a couple people that I need to take a look at this, so I might actually have to sit down and play it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks kind of Star Ocean-y to me, art style wise. So take a look. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade hits PS5 this week. This is the same game that everybody played last year, but now it's got Yuffie in it for some reason. It is not Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, so please do not get it confused. This is the same game, upscaled, remastered, or whatever the hell you want to call it, for PS5.
Important to note.
With a side quest.
If you have, I believe, please double check to make sure I'm not like confused on this.
If you bought Final Fantasy VII
on PS4, this is a free upgrade, and you only have to pay for the DLC part of it, which is the Yuffie part of it.
However, if you got Final Fantasy VII Remake for free from the Sony Play at Home or whatever that initiative
PlayStation Plus 1 year,
then you do not get the free upgrade.
Correct. It is confusing. It is unnecessarily obtuse.
It's dumb, is what I'm going to go with. Ninja Gaiden Master Collection hits PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. 3 high-speed ninja action titles are now available in one package. Please keep in mind that if you get this Ninja Gaiden collection, it is not the actual old games because they lost the source code to those. So this is Sigma 2, and Ninja Gaiden 3.
This is one of those stories that I wanted to bring up in a show a couple weeks back when I heard about the source code thing, but we've just been very impacted on our shows, and it's.
I think we've touched on it though, at least.
I hate how little this industry fucking cares about its history.
Yeah,
I hate it, and I'll just leave it at that.
Chicory, A Colorful Tale hits the PlayStations and PC. This is a cute RPG adventure. A top-down adventure game in a coloring book world full of vibrant characters. Use painting powers to explore, solve puzzles, make friends, and draw on anything. From the creators of Wandersong and Celeste.
That is why this is on here, because that is Celeste is amazing.
Yes.
And I like
Celeste is one of the best action platformers that we've got in several years.
This is going to sound really weird, but I find something extremely calming by a bunch of colors in video games.
Yeah. Anyway, take a look. It looks pretty neat. Also out, Guilty Gear Strive hits. It's out right now. You can play it PS4, PS5, and PC. It's Guilty Gear. It looks fucking amazing, and I'm probably gonna play it later today.
Did you actually buy this one?
No, not yet, but I think I might have to because I have a bunch of friends that already bought it, and I love me some Guilty Gear. Arc Systems, fighting game that's been out for a long time. This is a brand new one in the franchise. It's got a decent roster of characters, and if you've just never seen this game before, just Google it and watch a trailer and tell me that this game does not visually look amazing.
So is this actually a new Guilty Gear, or is this like...
This is not a remake, this is not a remaster, this is a new Guilty Gear.
It's not a turbo, it's not a championship edition, it's nothing like that.
That's been the main issue with this franchise, is like the last 4 Guilty Gears were some remix, super ridiculous named version of the one that came before it. This is a new Guilty Gear, that's why it's a big deal.
Okay, yeah, that is a big deal.
Speaking of new video games, this week, the very first new exclusive full-length PS5 game release.
Other than Returnal and Dark Souls.
I'm sorry, I said new, exclusive, and full-length. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart hits PS5 this week.
David, I assure you, with how much time I put into Returnal and still can't fucking get past the second biome, that is full-length.
Is not a full-length video game. I refuse anything. I also have over 100 hours in Hades, and I'm making this statement.
I think the term that you would be looking for is triple A, because Returnal is not a triple A video game.
Sure. I'm also gonna go with it's not full length because you can technically beat it in about 2 hours. And yes, I know you have to beat it more times to unlock more story, but you can beat it in 2 hours, so it's not a full-length video game.
This game looks amazing.
Yeah, Ratchet.
I
this new
really
Ratchet and Clank looks fucking amazing, and it is a proper PS5 exclusive. The PS4 cannot play this game, so it looks better than PS4 games.
it from what I've heard, what I've seen, it does things that PlayStation 4 can't do, especially with its weird dimension
Also,
hopping.
shout out to Ratchet and Clank because they're actually using the DualSense controller again.
Yes.
And apparently, it's got like individual sides of the controller rumble while you're running for like your footsteps, and it uses the crazy like triggers for its weapons.
Really, really, really want to play this. I like Ratchet and Clank games, but it's that thing where I don't know if I can justify spending $70 on what's going to ultimately be just an action adventure platformer.
Yeah, it's probably done in, I'd say, 10 to 15 hours. I would assume.
If that.
Yeah.
But man, do I want to play this one. It looks really good, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. David?
I'm also excited because Ratchet and Clank was always my favorite of the PS2 era action platformers.
So when you had like Ratchet and Clank, Maximo,
Jack and Daxter, Sly Cooper, all that stuff. So I'm happy that these are the guys that made it, right?
You know, I didn't realize until like 10 years after the fact that Maximo was the same guy from Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah, had no idea. I didn't know that was a Ghosts and Goblins spinoff.
It didn't make sense when the dude gets hit and he's suddenly in heart boxers.
It never clicked with me. Ever. Like, just at all. David, that does it for new releases, which means that also does it for the end of the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 267, and thank you all for showing up. We do stream this show live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints, so please feel free to join the conversation. If you can't watch us live, however, you can always catch old shows over at youtube.com/GamePointsPC. You can join our Discord, link provided down there below. Follow the show on Twitter at GamePointsPC, myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21, or David there at Palshife_Satori. I also do stream throughout the week, so the best way to know when I go live is, of course, to do everything that every streamer wants you to do. Follows, with notifications turned on, subscribes, bits, likes. You're on the internet. You know what people like us enjoy. But anyways, thank you for showing up. That does it for the show. Stay safe, take care. Until next week, we'll be seeing you.